Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the February National Farm to School Network Trending Topics webinar. We're going to give it just one moment for folks to jump on the line and then we'll get started. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the February National Farm to School Network Trending Topics webinar. Today, we'll be talking about farm to early care and education in family child care. My name is Lacey Stevens, and I am the program manager with the National Farm to School Network, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. Just a few housekeeping reminders as we're getting started here. This webinar will be recorded and archived for future viewing in the National Farm to School Network resource database. You'll also receive a link to that recording in a follow-up email, along with resources and reports shared by our speakers today. All attendees are in listen-only mode right now. As you do have questions, and please do feel free to ask questions of our panelists today, enter those questions into the question box in your control panel, and then we'll have plenty of time for question and answers at the end of our session today. To get us started, I'd like to welcome those of you who are joining us for a National Farm to School Network webinar for the first time and give you a little bit of background on the National Farm to School Network. The National Farm to School Network is an information, advocacy, and networking hub for communities working to bring local food sourcing, gardens, and food and agriculture education into schools and early care and education settings. And we do this through our network model. So in addition to our national staff, we have our core and supporting partners in every state, DC, and several of the territories as well. In addition to those partners, we have a network of over 20,000 members across the country. So as you consider how to advance your own farm to early care and education work, consider how to connect with these National Farm to School Network network of experts and practitioners. And all of these folks, including national staff and our core and supporting partners, can be found on our website. I'd also like to remind you of some of the relevant resources that we have to help you on your farm to early care and education journey and work. You can find all of these resources at the National Farm to School Network website and the National Farm to School Network Farm to Early Care and Education landing page at farmtoschool.org/ECE. So in addition to our partners and members who are our greatest resources, we also have a series of fact sheets, an extensive resource database, a Farm to ECE listserv, and webinars like this 3 times a year. So please take a look at our website and also contact me with any questions about these resources. To get us started on our topic today, our discussion around farm to early care and education in family child care. Across the country, there are over 213,000 licensed family child care homes, and nearly 1/4 of all children spend time in family child care before they reach kindergarten. Farm to early care and education, including local food procurement, gardening, and food and agriculture education, is a great fit for this family child care setting. Farm to ECE adapts to diverse ages, abilities, and settings, and offers evidence-based approaches to meeting educational and nutrition standards. So today we're going to hear from practitioners and providers across the country about best practices, keys to success, and the importance and benefits of bringing Farm to ECE to the family child care home. We'll start by hearing from Lynn Policastro from Wake County Smart Start Farm to Child Care. Then we'll hear from Gina Cook and Maria Claudia Ortega from Georgia Farm to ECE Learning Collaborative. And finally, we'll hear from Monica Jackson from Jackson Child Care. So to get us started, we're going to hear from Lynn Policastro. Lynn is the Healthy Initiatives Coordinator at Wake County Smart Start in Raleigh, North Carolina. She's a graduate of Meredith College with a BS in Child Development. She's worked for more than 20 years supporting early childhood providers in North Carolina through quality enhancement projects, licensing, and training. Recently, her work has been focused in helping child care programs provide quality care by supporting ways to provide more active play and fresh food options. So thank you, Lynn, for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lacey. And I'm very excited to be able to share the work we're doing in Wake County, so thank you for having me. I'd first like to share a little bit about what our county looks like, so you get a feel for who we are and how we got started in this county. So if you want to, yeah, thank you. So Wake County, as Lacey mentioned, our largest city is actually Raleigh, and so the capital of North Carolina. So we're the second largest county in North Carolina. So we have a large county that really is really diverse because we have some very urban areas and some very rural areas. So our work is can be difficult at times because of the sheer size of things. But you can see here that we have a large population of child care programs and about 170 family child care homes in our county. And one of the interesting pieces is about 70% of those are actually in 2 zip codes. So as I go through, I'll tell you a little bit about why that's important and kind of how we work around that. And so then I also like to share a little bit of background about our project and kind of how we got started. We've been doing this work for about 5 years, thanks to a grant that we got from a local funder, John Rex Endowment here in Wake County. And I will have to first say that one of the really exciting things is when we got this grant, John Rex Endowment was really adamant about working with family child care homes, which was extremely exciting to us because we've been trying to find sources of being able to work with homes, and they just didn't think they were getting their bang for their buck. So we were really excited that this was something that they wanted to concentrate on. So we really had to find a way to make it work. And so they also were really focusing on not only working with the homes, but if something didn't work, let's change it. So we were lucky enough to have that flexibility with things. So we are a huge collaboration, and I always like to tell people that I think that one of the reasons our project works so well is because we do have the partners we have. We have expertise in lots of areas that people have tried little bits and pieces here and there and couldn't make it happen because we all had our expertise and weren't working together. So I'm with Wake County Smart Start, so my background is actually early childhood, and so we really focus on making connections with the child care programs, and we have that because we've been here for so long. And then we were lucky enough to be able to have the local cooperative extension be a part of this as well. So they're bringing the agriculture background and being able to share the connections to the farmers and how to just make this happen when it comes to the agriculture end of things. And then we have a local group called Advocates for Health and Action here in Wake County that is really focused on the well-being of all people in Wake County. So they do a wide range of things, but they brought their expertise in just making connections to people in our local community, as well as some of the policy work that's going around local food. And then I also like to share, because we've kind of incorporated this in the last couple of years, is that we actually currently have a grant that's federal funded that is working on nutrition, physical activity, and outdoor learning environments as well. So we've really incorporated our farm to child care into how to do this and really made it a holistic kind of approach, which is exciting. So we started, like I said, we were lucky enough to have the interest in the homes. And so I really was like, how are we going to do this? And we first started doing it just like we were doing it with the centers. And just we had our collaborative, everyone was doing it. And it was really hard to get my homes there. As all of y'all probably know, it's just hard to get them out and doing training during the day and being able to make some of those connections like that. So we really looked the second year and said, how can we do this differently and how can we make this more effective? So we were lucky here in Wake County to have a large family child care association because they're all so close together, like I mentioned earlier. And so they are a really tight group. And they've been together for about 30 years. And so I started with that group and said, how can I work with you guys and how can we do this together? They have monthly meetings. And so I started doing training through that association first and kind of highlighting some different areas that we could do things. And then I also connected them with a mobile market that we had. So on a monthly basis, they were able to pick up local produce and start making connections with yeah, I want to do this. How can I do this on a more regular basis? And so if you want to flip to the next one, then we started to have our own series of trainings and really focus and help people understand what's in season in North Carolina and how to use that towards your benefit. Because we know not only does it taste better, it's more cost effective if you buy it in season. There's just all of these wonderful benefits of being able to do this. And so we had to help them be able to learn this skill. So the first thing we did is, as you can see through these pictures, is we did some hands-on kind of classes. And so we had some knife skills that we helped them. We knew that if they were going to move from can to fresh local, they were going to have the skills to be able to do that. And so as you can see, we just had practice time. We had people who came in and showed them tricks on how to chop things up faster and how to just make prep time an easier transition. And then we had fun times where we actually just learned recipes and tasted things and got to know, like, okay, right now, North Carolina, sweet potatoes are, the cheapest thing that you can buy. So what can we do and how can we incorporate that into our menu? So that was one of the first things that we did, and just had trainings, and those are something that we're still doing. We do those on a regular basis. And again, I do them seasonal. And then, as you can see on the next slide, we really focused also on the gardening side of things. And so we knew in some ways procurement was going to be a little bit harder for them because they're not buying such huge quantities. So we had to help them think about where to be able to do that and be able to purchase or be able to grow it themselves. So we had these fun gardening classes. And I also knew that not everybody was going to garden. And that was just a realistic picture of this whole project, is that that's not everybody's thing. And that's okay. But to even make it an educational opportunity. So if you have a pot of something that you're serving, so kids can get connected to the food that they're actually eating. And so that's one of the things that we did, is we just had some opportunities for them to learn what was in season, when to grow it, when to pick it, when to plant it, and all that kind of stuff. And then you can see, then I do have some programs that are really dedicated to their gardens and serve, 90 to 95% of their produce comes from their own garden. And they're growing and having these huge beds that they have as part of their program. So it just kind of really ranges, but we wanted to give people the skills to be able to do that. And then the next thing that we really incorporated is, as you'll see, is we really started working with the children and kind of modeling what childcare programs should be doing with those kids. And I have really focused the whole time we've been doing this project, is that if this is going to be something that you're going to do and make healthy living a focus of your childcare program, then you need to make it holistic and not just like an activity here or an activity there, and not just like, oh, we had a nice little cooking activity, but we're not going to have another one for another year. So we really wanted to make it everything that they're doing. So as you can see, so we did some modeling of how to incorporate literacy and having taste tests through story time and just new products that they might not have ever tried, and then being able to cook some of those things and really be a part of that process, because we all know if they're a part of it, then they're going to eat it or try it. And so then you can see on my next slide is that this is one of the programs that really bought into it all and really has made it their culture. Healthy living is what they do, and it is incorporated in everything. And this is just a picture of a day. They didn't know that their carrots were going to be ready, but that day they realized their carrots were ready, so they picked them. Then the children actually, had a fine motor activity where they actually chopped them, and then they had a cute little art activity that they had, and then they actually had it for lunch. So it wasn't something that they planned, but they knew, oh, they're ready. This is what we're going to do, and this is just what they do in their program. So really making it a whole focus. And then the last slide I have is the family engagement, which sometimes I find is a little bit easier with family childcare homes because you kind of have that family feel already. But so our programs, offer the food that they are actually have grown and have extras of that the parents can take home. If they've delivered a box to their house and they have extra produce from their box, then they, leave it out for their families. and let them have recipes so they know what the kids are trying, and all those kind of things. And then they have taste tests sometimes, especially when they have new recipes that they tried. And if the kids liked them, they would really, they really want the parents to know, like, oh, you need to try this at home too, that your kids really liked it. And then another thing I find really interesting about the homes is the involvement that they have, even with the gardening piece of things, is that they are actually able to get them out on weekends or even in the evenings and help with pieces of the garden. So in the spring, when they first need to, spend a lot of times, a lot of them will have like Saturdays where the families come out and they'll plant things. They'll get the bed ready, and then they'll plant for the season. And sometimes they'll just have, as they're picking up, they go weed for a few minutes with their kids before they go home. So again, it's, just a part of what they're doing, and really making parents aware, like, of the things that their children are getting on a daily basis, and that they're excited about it. So that's just a little bit about, I think I've gone really fast, and I apologize, I'm a quick talker. But so that's kind of a focus that we've done on the homes. And I would like to share one little thing, because I didn't do a slide for this, about one of the challenges, or one of the things that we're trying to incorporate, is we've been trying to do since we have so many community gardens in our area, and especially in the areas that we have a lot of family childcare homes, is we're making connections with those community gardens to be able to see, can we have like 5 or 10 family childcare homes, can they have a plot and be able to use an area and farm together, so they can use in their center and not have to necessarily prepare it at their house. So we've been trying to make connections in the community right where our homes are, because of the bond that they already have together and the communication that they're already doing so many things together. Why would they not farm together or garden? So that's just a little bit about what we're doing. And I do have my contact information, and I'd love to be able to share any of the things that we've been doing that's worked or not worked, or if anybody has any questions later on that you think of, I'm more than glad to share. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's so great to see the really comprehensive approach that you're able to support in those family childcare homes, and bringing in all those core elements and the family engagement pieces together. And really appreciate how you talked about different places to access family childcare homes and how they're already working together, and that Farm to ECE is just another opportunity to enhance that collaboration. So as you have questions for Lynn, please feel free to put those in the chat box there, and we'll have some additional time for discussion at the end here. So as we move forward, I'd like to introduce to you our next speakers. We have Gina Cook. Gina is the Nutrition ECE Specialist in Nutrition and Health at Quality Care for Children, a Georgia nonprofit focused on improving the quality of childcare in Georgia and ensuring parents can access and afford high-quality care. She manages chefs for young children and farm to early care and education quality improvement initiatives. She provides early care programs with training, ongoing support, and technical assistance to develop farm to ECE strategies, guidance in menu planning, and nutrition education. With her, we also have Maria Claudia Ortega. Maria is the owner of Little Geniuses, a 3-star quality-rated provider and one of the first providers to become part of the Early Head Start Child Care Partnership. She's been a child care provider for 16 years. In 2017, she applied for the Farm to ECE mini grant and has been able to align the program with the creative curriculum and the child and adult care food program. So thank you so much, Gina and Maria, for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lacey. Thank you. So on the next slide, So just to give a background of the Georgia Farm to ECE Learning Collaborative, in 2017, 5 organizations, Georgia Organics, Quality Care for Children, Little Ones Learning Center, Voices for Georgia's Children, and the Common Market received grants from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation to develop a collaborative partnership and to provide mini grants, free resources, materials, training, and professional development to early care providers interested in incorporating farm to ECE activities and into their day-to-day routines and their meal services. Next slide. Our Learning Collaborative sites are throughout the state. We have 18 sites. 10 of those are childcare learning centers and 8 are family childcare learning homes. The 10 centers range in size from small to large centers. We have nonprofits and for-profits, and we have one site that is a Head Start center. We also have our family child care providers. One is in South Georgia, which is down in the green area. And then we have 7 that are located in the metro Atlanta area. They are in the yellow at the top. They are located in Cobb counties and Gwinnett counties. Next slide. So our scope of our work, all of our participating sites in the Learning Collaborative receive support in creating their action plans, and we use the Go Knapsack online self-assessment. They also receive on-site technical assistance, and that includes classroom activities where we go in and model activities for them to do in their day-to-day routines. We also have support from local farmers, extension agents, dietitians, and chefs that lend their expertise to the sites. We also provide training and professional development, lots and lots of resources. We also help with menus, and we also have a weekly parent text messaging program. Next slide. So we developed a Harvest of the Month program to make it easier for our providers to implement Farm to ECE. And each month, resources are sent to the providers, and this includes recipes, lessons, activities that are centered around the Harvest of the Month that we're featuring. So several providers have commented that they do many Harvest of the Month activities throughout the month, and it's a great way to introduce locally grown foods and get the kids and families excited. So for this month we did carrots, and so I've been out visiting some of the sites and we've been doing activities. We have a book that I read that goes along with whatever the Harvest of the Month is. The other thing we have is our texting program, and it's Kids Eat Local, and parents and as well as staff can sign up, and they receive 3 to 4 text messages per month, and these messages may have links to recipes, fun facts about the Harvest of the Month, where to buy the featured Harvest of the Month product, and also any books that we suggest. And we also have done, just recently we did a giveaway, so the top 20 people that signed up received a book. They received Grandma Lena's Big Old Turnip, which was well received. We had a lot of people that signed up for that. Next slide. So I just want to tell you a little bit about TT's. She is one of our family childcare providers down in South Georgia, right at the Georgia-Florida line. And she started her first garden beds from repurposed bathtubs from Habitat for Humanity. And you can see those in the slide. And she's also added many more beds and fruit trees in her backyard. And now her backyard is a learning classroom. It has areas for gardening and exploring. Next slide. And these are just a couple more pictures from her garden. She and the children love gardening, and she has incorporated several indoor learning spaces with Farm to ECE materials. She has books, posters, props. They even do indoor gardening. And she has introduced new local foods into her menus, and she even shares harvests with the families in her care. So on this slide, I'm going to, our early Head Start providers, we have 7 of those that we are working with. And just to give you a little bit of background about early Head Start, in 2015, Quality Care for Children became a partner with the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning and the Early Head Start Child Care Partnership. In this partnership, 13 Latino quality-rated family child care providers serve approximately 48 children in the metro Atlanta area and counties DeKalb, Gwinnett, Fulton, and Cobb. Early Head Start and the Child Care Partnership provides high-quality, comprehensive services to infants, toddlers, and their families. And Quality Care for Children supports partnering child care programs and meeting the Head Start program performance standards and state licensing requirements. So here's a few pictures of some of the providers and the kids working in the garden. Next slide. Here is when they had harvested zucchini from the garden and had brought it into the classroom. Next slide. And this is from one of the providers' floor. They had harvested some vegetables and actually made a salad for lunch that day. So these 7 early Head Start providers are very committed to providing quality learning experiences for their children. And we have found that Farm to ECE is a great fit for them. The Farm to ECE activities align with creative curriculum for infants, toddlers, and twos, which they use to do their lessons. And also it aligns with the Georgia Early Learning Development Standards. And they have increased the number of hands-on learning activities throughout the day through gardening. They do taste tests, they do cooking, and they have found that this has improved the overall quality of their programs. Next slide. And this is just to show you that even the smallest learners can get involved in the garden. Next slide. Just some children out in the garden. This was on a hot day last summer. Next slide. And now I wanted to introduce you to Maria Claudia Ortega. She is one of our early Head Start providers, and she wants to share what she has done in her program with you.
Thank you, Ms. Gina. I started with the Farm to ECE program because I was interested in teaching the children in my daycare about gardening. When interacted with the children during different learning experience throughout the day, I asked them where do vegetables come from. They say from the supermarket or from the fridge. Since that moment, I needed a green garden in my center. When the Farm to ECE program came out, my husband and I became interested in the participating. It was the perfect opportunity to teach the children about gardening because they were going to have real hands-on experience. They were going to learn about the whole life cycle of the plants, the seeds, roots, stem, flower, and fruit. The children were excited to see the growing process of all the fruit and vegetables. Moreover, it was a great opportunity to teach them about measurement, quantities, color, size, texture, and numbers. They enjoy being part of the process by taking turns to water the plants, which was also a great social learning experience for the children. They also practice take turns sharing and caring about the living things in our planet. When thinking about Farm to ECE and how I got into the program, it also comes to my mind my culture. In our Hispanic culture, we know the importance of the gardening because the products are fresher, are healthier, free of the pesticides and chemical hazard. Organic products are better for our health The quality of the flavor is superior, and it is cheaper to grow our own vegetables than getting them at the supermarket. I have to highlight that my husband, Jesus Maria, has been a great support for me in all this process. He grew up in the farm in Colombia, working the land, planting seeds, and milking cows. He has a vast experience in compost and work composting so that the children learn everything about recycling food and turning it into valuable soil. The benefits are many beyond what I had mentioned. The food is fresh, the children learn about new fruits and vegetables, the families start to prepare recipes with the fresh vegetables. Due to the work that we do with the compost, when the children finish eating any leftover, such as banana peels and any fruit and vegetable skin, they give it to my husband to feed the worms. The harvest is shared with the families that we serve. The children learn about new insects. Thanks to the grant we received, we were able to learn so much about gardening with the trainings and ongoing professional development. We also received gardening supplies and great books about how to make the gardening process easier. The books were also a great tool for story time. Thanks to this program, we were able to build a rainwater collection system for the vegetable garden. This system has helped us reduce the water consumption for this purpose by about 20%, which has helped us lower our water bill as well. Even though this experience has been very rewarding, it has not come with some challenges. For example, the change in the weather and seasons did not allow some fruits and vegetables and they died. In addition, some bad bugs ate some of the plants we were excited to pick up, such as broccoli and the squash. Also, we learned that some fruit need more space to grow than the others, like watermelon, cantaloupe, and cucumbers. On my Little Genius Learning Center, we are so happy to be part of the Farms to Eat Seed program. Thank you so much for all the help and support we have received so far. We hope to continue with this program for many years to come. Thank you, Ms. Gina, for your dedication and support. In the next slide, you will see pictures of my children during different learning experiences in the garden and classroom.
Thank you so much, Gina and Maria. It's so wonderful to see that work in action and hear your experiences. I really appreciate how you underscored that alignment of Farm to ECE and how it's supporting meeting those program performance and learning standards. And touching on all those areas of emphasis from health and wellness, and social and emotional development, as well as that experiential learning piece. And two resources I want to mention that relate back to what you shared and that we'll be able to share in our follow-up email, so keep an eye out for that, is a resource from our friends at the Policy Equity Group around aligning Farm to ECE with a creative curriculum, which many of you may use and many family childcare homes may be using. And the other resource I want to make sure I mention and that we'll share out is the Growing Head Start Success with Farm to Early Care and Education resource from the National Farm to School Network, which aligns Head Start program performance standards and the early learning framework with Farm to Early Care and Education activities. And I think Gina and Maria, you all really just exemplified all of that alignment and what it can look like in action. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And for those of you who have questions for Gina or Maria, please do be sure to put that in your question box there, and we'll have some time to address those questions at the end of the session. For now, I'd like to turn it over to our final speaker, Monica Jackson. Monica operates the Jackson Childcare, a licensed family childcare home. Ms. Jackson is past president of Virginia Alliance of Family Childcare Associations, and Fairfax Child Care and Advisory Council recently elected Ms. Jackson to her third term as its chairman. So Monica, thank you so much for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Lacey. This first slide speaks to the heart of what we wanted to accomplish, and that is using the concept of farm to table and getting the kids ready as far as kindergarten readiness. You mentioned the creative curriculum. We use the creative curriculum, but we also use as our building block our Virginia early standards for 4 to 5 year olds. Our child care, the children in our care are between the ages of 3 and 5. So it's the perfect age to blend with the alignment of the standards. We did not have any outside funding, as was mentioned. And as Maria said, it really came to light one day. I asked where this food come from. And to my surprise, they said the refrigerator. That told us that we had some work to do. And around the same time, I had read an article pertaining to farm to school. And at the time, I didn't really know much about it, but I started doing some research and found it to be a wealth of resources available. We pride ourselves in taking the children out into the community, and we try to instill in the kids the community connection. And by using the community connection, this is what has helped us to really get the resources that we need for the children. I believe it was around the month of October back in 2016 when I got comfortable with farm to the early education. And I really can't take credit for what we did. It was pretty much taking what we saw in children's books that pertain to gardening, and also taking the standards and breaking it down into building blocks so that we can help the kids understand the process. The slide that shows up right now shows us at a farmer's market, and this is key. We were in a position to get the kids out to the farmer's market, which is in session around fall to spring, and they get to know the farmers, they get to see the foods, and we get to talk with the farmers. There you see one of the farmers there, and the food that he allowed us to have that day to bring home to try. And that gave the kids really a lot of incentive to want to go to the store and pick up seeds. And I'll go through the whole process with you. It's not as eloquent as I would like to have it, but I'm just giving it to you in the manner in which we did it, and it made sense, and we learned a lot from the process. So Lacey, you can go to the next slide. Okay, that's who I am in the next slide. My presentation is broken down into farm to table, collaboration, communication, and kindergarten readiness. The farm to the table is basically getting the food from the farm to tables. The collaboration portion of it is getting in the community and talking to community people and telling them what we do, such as the farmers market, such as the grocery stores. We were able to do field trips to the grocery store, and the grocery store were able to tell us how the food got from the farm to the store. Then communication. The communication is key with the community, but also with the parents. The parents had to be on board to give us the flexibility and the support that we need to take the kids from one place to the next. And I'll tell you a little bit about the gardening. It started in the daycare, but it ended up in the homes of the kids. And then the kindergarten readiness, to know that we used this opportunity to align our program with the early building blocks in all of the different early learning areas. And we were just fortunate that it worked for us. The next slide, please. Okay. There, it's just a review of what I just said, that, you know, here we are out in, I think this is the apple picking. We went out into the farm and we went through, and the kids got hands-on experience. We try as much as possible when we are teaching a lesson to the children to engage all 5 senses. Through that engagement, we have found that it makes a big difference in the children understanding the concepts that we're trying to relate to them. So the next slide. The early learning portion we talked about, we started off with the plant cycle. Before we got to what you see here, we started planting in a greenhouse in the home during the month of March to get the seedlings ready. What you see there are pallets that we used. The lady that's in the pink, her husband was kind enough, she's our special needs teacher. He was kind enough to come and knock all those pallets out and get it set up in the backyard for us. So as the seedlings got strong enough, we took it out there. But there's a process that we will go through and it makes more sense to you. So you've seen the end product, but we'll go through the process. And then we believe that this is not only healthy and knowledge-wise, but it's instilling some really good life skills for the kids to understand, you know, if we grow it and we eat it, it really benefits us. A lot of the kids there, we will also discuss later, they were able to take some of these seedlings home, and for the first time, a lot of them started eating vegetables, and the parents were absolutely amazed. Next slide. We found that this process also taught the kids how to be responsible. And there was a sense of satisfaction that they took. Well, how is my plant doing? Let's go check. Some of it survived, some of it didn't. But the key is throughout the whole process, we learned something. We learned what worked, we learned what did not work, and why it didn't work. The next slide. Okay, so before we get to planting the seeds, we went to Home Depot and we bought all of these seeds that you see there. Once we got back, we sat down and we sorted the seeds. We counted, we classified it. When we transferred into the planting, we were able to put it into sets and into pattern. All of those are math concepts. Those we did not sit down with pen and paper or pencil and paper or crayons with the kids. They actually got to do all of that, and it made sense to them. Not to minimize the language part of it, they were able to articulate exactly what we were doing because we reviewed it on a daily basis. They saw that we as adults had to use those packet seeds to give us guidance and direction, pretty much similar to cooking, that there's a recipe and that we have to. So the print aspect of it, well, what does that say? Are we doing this the right way? It heightened a certain level of curiosity for the kids. Next slide, please. Okay. We talked about different aspects of the building blocks. Here, I'm going to focus on the art part of it. You'll notice those stakes that are sitting in the garden. Well, we colored all of those and we put the names of what the seeds were. So the kids got to do the art part of it, but they also got to do the print part of it. In order to keep the garden going, there was a lot of work that we needed to do. We had to water the garden, and we watered it, as you're seeing there, with buckets or with little containers. It was just a fun time that we had. Next slide. Okay. As far as the collaboration, the seeds that we grew, we will show you later on how we did some of the growth with window and containers. We were able to send those home, and the kids took those home, they grew them, and interestingly enough, the parents started little container gardens for the children. And then they started inviting us over after school to come visit the gardens. And we have a few pictures of us visiting the gardens. Some of the skills that we felt that was really significant is that the children's knowledge of nutrition really gained. They now knew that food did not come from the refrigerator. The plant life cycle, we documented those. All of this was done over a period of time. It wasn't just one-time thing. It was an ongoing thing. It was intentional. The gardening experience that we all gained together, and just to see the little kids beam. If there was a seedling coming up, they couldn't be more excited to share that. And that gave us a lot of encouragement. Next slide. So here we are getting ready to do what we call seed germination. And that is simply putting seeds into cotton balls or paper towels and labeling what we're going to do with the seeds. What is it? What is it? Carrots? Is it beans? Whatever. And so the kids are preparing by doing, we call this our art project, where they're actually coloring the popsicle sticks. And you'll see that they've got markers there that they're going to start putting the names of certain things on it. So we call this A for Art. And the next slide, please. This is G for germination. So we put this in, and this is the science part of what we did. We put it up in our windows, and every day we recorded if there was any change in activity. It took a few days before we could see something coming up. So we documented how long did it take for us to see this. That really helped with the concept of time. And since then, we've been able to build the concept of time and incorporate it into everyday language. Next slide. Here we are saying on the third day, we're seeing some sprout. You can see my little friend here face. He's really excited. And the next slide. By day 9, we start seeing the roots. So we're no longer reading a book about the different parts of germination. We're actually seeing it in front of us, and that's super exciting. The next slide. And here we are able to introduce the entire cycle, the germination to sprouting to growth and then to the plant itself. They were able to see that from inception to the actual, in some cases, flowers or fruit. We did do flowers, but that's for a different topic, but we're just focusing on the vegetables. And so the kids got to see all of this. Next slide. Each time we do something of any type of learning, we send home a daily report to our parents, and we break down what the focus of that day, or if it's an ongoing project, we'll give them the different components of what we were doing. And here, we incorporate the literacy part. We were using the book, The Carrot Seed, before we sat down and went through the whole germination process. We used the book or books to get to a place where the kids are, meet them where they are. We put everything out, and then we explain to them what we're going to do. We do it, and like we said, we report what we've done. And then we send that home to the parents so that the parents can piggyback. This knowledge is important because it's this same process that the parents would use at home to continue the development and the learning. Next slide. Okay, the collaboration on a weekly basis. Our farmers market is a Thursday, and they come in and we take the kids to meet the farmers. We believe in relationship building and training the kids or exposing them and modeling how that is done is really significant for their social and emotional. They're very social, they're very into what's going on. Parents will say they ask a lot of questions. Well, they're asking questions because they're getting out and people like the farmers are talking to them. You'll see in slides that follow up they're meeting with people that are just in the farmers market, and they're getting acquainted with not only the farmers, but different types of foods. Next slide. Here, the same slide we saw earlier. We took the opportunity after we got the produce exposure down to explain to the kids how that farmer is able to make a living. Just like we do the community helper, the farmer was our community helper. We explained that he grew, he brought it to the marketplace, he sold it, and that money that he got went back to the farm, and that's how he fed his family. They were able to connect with that because they were able to say, okay, this is what my dad does, this is what my mom does, but this is what the farmer does. Next slide. Here we had a trip to our local grocery store, and we were locked out because the man there standing that's talking to the kids, he was a Boy Scout leader, and he had tons of early childhood experience. And so he was able to explain to the kids in a manner that, well, in different parts of the country, you have different types of food, and this is how the food comes to us. It comes either through trucks, some food come from overseas. The geography that came out of that, we did not expect, and we didn't expect the kids to understand it, but it gave us an opportunity to come back home, to pull out a globe and to point to different places for the kids. Now, these are little kids, but the point of it is we're introducing new concept, and they have an interest because it's hands-on. They took us to the meat department, the produce department, the bakery department, and they broke down all of the ingredients and all of the supplies and what they sold. They even got to go behind the scenes and try some of the food. They saw how to ring up the whole commerce experience was more than we had expected, but that also came out of the process. Next slide. Here we're at one home where the parent invited us over, and you can see our little one there with his dad. They're explaining to us what they're doing and what they're growing. And you can see the other kids, they're more in the background, but just observing what that process is. Very, very detailed, very involved. Next slide. We talked about the different reports that we send to the parents on the how we align the early learning building blocks to the project that we were working with. We did blogs, we did some posting on social media, and that helped to give us kind of a little bit of exposure in terms of this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. It gave us a platform to promote. It didn't give us much financial wherewithal, but given what we had to work with, we were pretty pleased with the results. The next slide. Again, here's a little breakout of our daily report to our parents, and it's a little bit more detailed. If anyone wants to see the report itself, we'd be happy to send it. Just let us know. Next slide. Again, this carrot seed. We read the book. These are the seedlings. How do we know which is what? The kids were able to sit down, and we were able to write out the words of whatever the seeds were. And as we did our greenhouses, they became more familiar. Well, this is a carrot. This is the broccoli. You know, this is whatever it is that we had in that particular section. Next slide. We did reach out, and we did get traditional art things that we could use to bring it back into the fun part of arts and crafts for the children, so that they can make a connection. And it really wasn't the arts and crafts, the final product, what it looked like. It was an opportunity for the kids to take their knowledge and for us to see, or for them to demonstrate to us that they understood the process. Next slide. And that's it. I hope that it makes sense to you. I think it's a little bit confusing, but the key that I want to focus on in terms of getting this done, this was only possible because we were able to make connections within our community. And our whole program is really focused on getting the kids to understand that we get things done as a community, and the implications of that social aspect, and then aligning the kindergarten standards to know that when they leave us and they go to school, they already have the foundational things. It's just a matter of building on it. Lacey, I thank you for the opportunity to share this.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's always such a pleasure to hear about the work you have happening and how you've so effectively integrated farm to early care and education into so many aspects of the work that you're doing, and reinforcing how valuable these activities and initiatives are for preparing children for kindergarten and for the rest of their life. So thank you for sharing that with us. We do have some time for questions. As you do have additional questions, please feel free to pop those into the chat box. First question I'd like to address is the recording and the slides will be available after the webinar. You'll receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording and additional information from our presenters. So keep an eye out for that follow-up email coming up. One question, I want to start with Gina and Maria for this question, and Lynn and Monica can feel free to add on, but I think it's an important question to hear from all of you, is how have you seen farm to early care and education initiatives impact food access for the families that you're working with? I think we heard Lynn mention an on-site farmers market. Are there specific initiatives, or how have you seen the impact on healthy local food access for families?
One of our centers that we work with actually has a farmer's market on site, and her parents can come and buy some locally grown fruits and vegetables. Some of that comes from a garden that she has, some comes from a local distributor, but they are able to do that I think she does it on a weekly basis during the summertime.
This is Lynn. I just want to, I'll comment too. I just think that families are exposed to more food now than because the kids are having it at the center or the home, and now they're asking for it. So it's kind of a nice trend that the kids are making some of this happen because they're interested in it, and so so now they're asking for it at the store, or they're taking it home because they have extra in the garden, and so I would say that just the exposure to the families as well has increased.
And I would agree. This is Monica. I would agree 100%. A lot of the foods, for example, the eggplant that we showed, it turned out to be one of the kids' favorite foods, and parents had no idea. Broccoli is the same thing. Brussels sprouts is the same thing. We are lucky that we've got two farmers market that we can access, and they're within, a 5-mile radius. The local grocery stores really are doing a fantastic job in providing a lot of fresh fruits, and which is why it was so important for us to get in there and to have the head of the produce department go through all of the produce and the prevalence of how it gets from there to here, so the kids can understand it. I really think that for us it's not much of an issue. It was just getting to the kids, and once we got to the kids, then the parents start kind of building on it.
And the same in my case, my parents received the produce I grown in the garden, and I tried taste the new flavor because the family with my kids is more Hispanic. They are no eat too many vegetables. It's only tortillas, jalapeno, tomatoes. And now when the vegetables grown, the kids take new vegetables, and then I bring the same recipes with the fathers and make squash, cucumber. The other is zucchini, because it's no common these products made in the grocery when the families go when the families buy in the supermarket these vegetables.
Great, thanks for that feedback. It sounds like it's really a combination of both exposure and knowledge building and access at the same time. In those multiple approaches. So I know that we are at the top of the hour. There are some questions we didn't get to, and I will connect with the speakers to follow up with you individually for those questions. Feel free to reach out to myself, Lacey at farmtoschool.org, and I can connect you with our speakers or help to answer any of your questions. Again, you'll be receiving a recording of this webinar as well as additional resources that we've talked about today. Please continue to follow the Farm to Early Care and Education work and connect with us at farmtoschool.org, and we'll look forward to having you on our next webinar. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us. A big thank you to all of our speakers as well for sharing your great work.
Thank you.